Oh God, what have I made? Nobody will want this stuff.
Oh wow, Nacho, is this your Teespring store?
Yeah, I just threw some simple, silly designs together quick. It's nothing special, just some funny, overpriced things on Nacho's Underworld Market.
Oh, look at this. This is super cool. You can get a hoodie and many other style of shirts.
Not just shirts, but some great Yowie design stretch pants too.
And who wouldn't like an awesome coffee mug?
Or an angry Nacho throw pillow for your couch. Everyone wants one of those.
Payment online is the best way to pay you.
Well heck, Jen, thanks. Here's all your awesome Nacho merch.
Check out Nacho's Underworld Market on Teespring today.
G'day, Nacho here for the first of a brand new remake of an old series, Atheist Flashbacks. This is where we take a guest through a series of questions and they must respond as their former theist self. If they break character at any point, we take a drink. Feel free to drink along with us, but the consequences are on you. Some of you may remember the show from Grey Skeptic Mac's channel, where he put many of us through the ringer. Now, the power is in my upside-down hands, and we are starting it off right, of course, with none other than Grey Skeptic Mac himself as our first guest. 2 years and 3 days ago, as of recording, Grey Skeptic Mac had Shannon on for his 4th episode of Atheist Flashbacks. She had only 2 videos out back then, but she was already a huge mover and shaker in the community.
So, Shannon Q, you're an Anglican again. How's it feel?
Boring. Feels boring. And it feels a little bit constraining. Boring and constraining.
And you're the one who got me into the community, so that was...
Am I?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because I loved your quote, smacking Bibles, drinking Red Bull.
Oh, my extreme atheist quote.
I don't know who this atheist is, but I'm going to follow her. And I think you're the first person I followed.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, like, you followed me back. I'm like, oh, cool. And then, then you started your Let's Talks. And I'm like, oh, neat. Fun.
Well, that makes me happy because you're a great member of the community. So that's exciting for me to hear. I know you had a chat with Nacho Witness and Fenrir a while ago, and you guys mentioned me, and it made my heart made me happy. Yeah, it was exciting for me to hear that because it means a lot to me to make sure that the community is strong and that people are supporting each other. So, and you got all of you smaller channels that are all popping up now too. It's just amazing. Like I feel like there's just this massive influx of people who are just like, you know what, I can do that too. Let's all do it together and support each other. And it's great to see. It makes me really happy. So thank you for doing it because I know it's not easy.
It's fun though. It's fun.
Good.
And we appreciate your support. And what's extra fun about this for me is these are a lot of the same answers that I would give.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
what's funny for me is that I've only ever been on your side of this conversation. And I find myself slipping into a former version of myself and getting legitimately frustrated because I'm trying to honestly answer the questions from a perspective of retaining and articulating and substantiating my justification for my faith. Mm-hmm. It's not something I've had to do in a long time, and or ever really on this critical level at all. The only time I really was justifying it was to myself. Mm-hmm. These are the type of questions that I asked myself, or the type of questions I was asking when I was trying to get justification. So this is an interesting exercise.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
It's making me kind of relive going through this initially, and the things that I told myself. And it's kind of like holding a mirror up. Yeah, so it's interesting. I like what you're doing here. It's interesting because it's kind of like holding a mirror up to the former version of myself that went through this, only, to myself, having to hear myself say the things out loud that I thought to myself in my head.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Way back then, rumor goes, Shannon suggested to Mac that she might do his flashback, if it ever were to happen. It just so turns out that day has come, and I am certainly not one to take away what is rightfully owed. Shannon will be our guest host, and by golly, she is ready to grill that Grey Skeptic. I will take a back seat for this one and just enjoy the show. In fact, so much of a back seat have I taken that I wasn't even there for the original show recording. I had to work, unfortunately. So I want to take this quick moment to thank Jen from Jen's Little Corner for helping set up the show while I was absent and recording it for me, as well as Osman Cometh, who was there as a backup with Jen if anything were to go wrong. They both do awesome content, and I would implore you to check out their channels. Both of their links will be below, as well as, of course, the links for our lovely guest host, Shannon, and the sweet Grey Skeptic Mac himself. So for the first time viewing of the very first show in the new series of Flashbacks, I hope you and I enjoy the show.
All right. I'm excited. Welcome to Atheist Flashbacks. And I'm taking over today, suckers. Haha, too bad. Stuck with me. I did finger guns, so you're welcome. And I'm really excited because today we are going to be talking to my friend Mac, and I get to be sitting in the other seat because we did this before and I was sitting in the hot seat during Atheist Flashbacks. So today it's your turn. So before we get going, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are and where they can find you?
Sounds good. I am Mac, Grey Skeptic. I started Atheist Flashbacks a couple years ago now, and I did have Shannon. She was one of my first guests, and it was very, very fun. You were Anglican,
yeah,
I remember.
Yeah,
yes.
I was.
It was, and that was a really fun episode. I haven't done one of these in a long time, and Nacho asked if he could take over, and I was like, hell yeah, man. But you and I had talked about you doing my interview. Since you kind of got me into the community, I thought it'd be cool. So I'm really glad that we're here finally doing this. I was going to wait till 500 subs, but Nacho asked if he could take it over. And you know what? I'm like less than 20 away from getting like 500 subs anyways. So this is kind of great. So anyways, you guys can find me at Grey Skeptic on YouTube, or just go to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, or LEA podcast. And that's where I usually am on Friday nights at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Awesome. Yeah, we did talk about it, and I'm excited that you picked me. I feel privileged to be here. So the way this is going to work is that you are going to take on your former theist persona, and if you break character, then we have to drink.
I'm ready.
So you have to start being Theist Mac right now. And question 1 is, what are you drinking? What are you drinking tonight? What is it?
I am drinking a Cayman Jack margarita.
Oh.
Yeah, they're really, really good. They did not sponsor the show, but that's okay. Anyway.
I am drinking generic diet cola and some form of vanilla vodka this evening. And it's really good. So I'm hoping that you break character a couple of times. So, yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready, Theist Mac?
I'm so ready.
You're all right. Perfect.
I'm a little nervous. I'm so ready though.
All right. Here's a question.
Oh. Okay.
He was, but I thought that just might be me. He's fine when he's on the small screen, so I think it might be his resolution that he has selected. Like, is he in 420 or 1080 on his camera for his output?
See if this helps. Turn down the outgoing video. Does help at all?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Cool.
Oh, now we're back to pixelate. No.
Okay. All right. Cool. Should we just pick up where we left off? Just back it up like 10 seconds so we can just mend it?
Yeah, sure. So, it'll be fine. Yeah. It'll be fine. Just a little bit of pixelation at the beginning is not going to be a big deal. It'll be Jen's problem. All right, are we ready to go again?
Yes.
All right. So here's a first question. This is a very important question.
Mm-hmm.
Does your religion allow you to drink alcohol?
Does actually, yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. Actually, Jesus' first miracle was to turn water into wine.
Oh, so you can. So we can cheers, and you'll be fine throughout this. You're not committing any sort of sin.
Mm-mm. We're not really supposed to get drunk, per se, but it's fine to drink and have a good time. It's supposed to keep your head about you. Drink responsibly. God's law.
And what denomination are you?
I am no specific denomination. I'm a Christian.
Okay.
Christian just means man of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And my church just teaches like the truth, just teaches Christianity. That's all there is to it. It's simple as that.
And what led you to join your religion or find religion?
Cool. That's a good question. My mother, she worked at the same place as my dad, and they had a mutual friend where he studied the Bible really thoroughly with his pastor, who's actually in Arkansas. They're based down in Little Rock, Arkansas, I believe. And they have like family Bible study hours. And they would broadcast them back in the 90s. I can actually keep up with those ones that were recorded back in the 90s, which is very neat. But yeah, we belong to this church, and they study the Bible very, very thoroughly. Like, to get through a chapter is at least an hour because our pastor references a Strong's Concordance most of the time, or just like Hebrew manuscripts, and just references words that he feels were mistranslated or just not put in the sentence in the right way, to kind of fill in the gaps and make sure people are reading the Bible in an educated way. And
so how often do you attend church? Like, how often do you go to services?
Well, we don't actually go to church. We just watch these videos most of the time. And we would do it at least once a week, but I was homeschooled for 8 years. So usually during our lunch, we would sit in the living room and we'd have the half an hour Bible study along with a half an hour of questions to our pastor. So that was about an hour of my school time for about 8 years.
So when you went to school each day, a portion of your school from home was Bible study that was allocated specifically to studying the Bible?
Yes. Yeah,
what led your parents to homeschool?
I was bullied a lot in elementary school up until about the 4th grade when we had moved, and then I didn't really have any friends at the new school. So I had chosen, because I had the option. My mom found another homeschool family that we were vaguely related to, and she thought homeschool sounded cool, neat. She couldn't work. She has some disabilities, so she offered me to be homeschooled, and I thought it was a good idea. So we did that. And like I said, it wasn't an hour every single day, but there were some points when we were pretty heavy into it where we would watch it every day, like during lunch hour, and then get back into schoolwork.
What's your absolute favorite part of attending your, I guess it would be like in-home services or just worship in general? Like, what's your favorite part?
My favorite part is when we talk about like revelations and like the future, more or less. I'm really interested in the end times. That's my.
Oh, why is that? Why are you interested in the end times? Is there like a heavy push within your religion focusing on end time prophecies, or is it just something you naturally gravitated towards?
A little bit of both, really. Yeah. I think it's super duper interesting. But there is a push to know what's happening in the end times. That way, you aren't more, in a colloquial way to say it, that way you aren't like left behind, right? We don't believe in rapture at all. But do you want to get into like my end times belief?
Yeah, heck yeah, I do. Yeah. Absolutely, I do. Okay. I sure do.
Well, I'll try to sum it up the best that I can, and the best to which I can remember.
Cheers.
So, in the end times, we all know of like this Antichrist that comes, right? And he's supposed to have control over the earth during a certain amount of time. And the elect are supposed to be there and just resist temptation throughout that time, even though like times will be hard. It says I can't really reference much of Revelations right now because I am a rusty. But,
drink.
But the main point, the biggest thing that we have to remember is out of 2 Corinthians. And it's that the morning star, the Son of Man, both of which are names for Satan, he comes first. He's the Antichrist. Christ, Antichrist, Satan, Jesus, right? So the Antichrist comes first. So when everyone's looking to be raptured up, when Jesus comes back,
looking to be raptured up,
right? Looking to be raptured up. That's a super dangerous thought. Actually, the word rapture is not in the Bible whatsoever. Not even one time. It actually comes from, I can't remember her first name, but someone McDonald in the 1800s. It's a prophecy. A Catholic priest, I believe, did an exorcism on some woman, and she was talking about the end times and rapture. And this woman was riddled with demons. And this is where the rapture idea got started. And well, it's just nowhere in the Bible. So it's just another thing of temptation and just traditions of man that kind of gets started and kind of gets rolled with, kind of like Easter. But I'll get back I'll get back to that. And it's a really dangerous idea that you're going to be raptured up before Satan comes, because Second Corinthians, as well as another spot in the Bible, it makes it so clear that Jesus doesn't come first. So that doesn't make sense that Jesus is going to come and save you before Satan comes, when it says specifically Satan, the Antichrist, is coming first. So when you are being raptured up or gathered to be raptured over the 6-month period, which I can't quite remember why it has been lowered to a 6-month period. That's this where the Antichrist is supposed to rule for a set amount of time. It was lowered to like 2 years, and then it was like lowered down to like 6 months for some reason or another, because Satan is so slippery. He's a slippery snake, right? He's so tempting, and God thought that even his elect couldn't resist for more than like 2 years or 6 months. So he lowered the time that we have to resist this temptation and like these times of hardships that are to come, which are similar to like now.
like it might be the end times right now.
Like it might be the end times now.
Who do you think the Antichrist is then?
Oh, it's just Satan. It's just Satan.
So how is Satan acting upon the world in order to influence the world if he's not like taking the form of like a person?
Well, he has. Oh boy, this could take all night.
I have lots more questions, but this is interesting.
Right? He has spirits, like evil spirits down here.
Do they possess people or like how do they act on people to get them to do the shitty things to bring upon the end times?
I don't really super duper know how evil spirits act with a person. Like I know that they're that they're not good, and they do things to try to veer souls away from God, right?
Yeah.
To just tempt people more or less. But the biggest thing is the probably the Kenites, which are from the seed of Cain.
Okay.
The second born, I believe, of Adam and Eve.
Yeah, wouldn't that be everybody though? Or did they have other kids?
They had other kids. There was Cain and Abel.
Mm-hmm.
And then after Cain slew Seth, I'm sorry, Abel. Then, well, he had no line. So then they begot Seth later on after they had exiled Cain. And Seth is the one where the Christ line comes through. And all like the 12 tribes of Israel and all of that good jazz.
But how did Cain continue to have a line if the Noah flood destroyed everybody? Or do you not believe that the Noah flood was like a literal thing?
We're going to bounce back and forth a lot.
Yeah, we are, because it all connects together. If you believe the end times, you need to follow the linear path.
Yeah, it is.
And you said it was from Cain's line. So how is it from Cain's line? If Cain went off and Seth's line is where Jesus came from, who had to have come from Noah, wouldn't Cain's line have died off? Like, how did Cain's line get on the ark? I want a good answer, Mac.
Yeah.
Theist Mac.
There are two ways for the Cain's line to be brought forth after the flood. 2 ways, and we're not quite sure which is which. There's a little bit of debate even within my religion. The first thought is that this was either just a local flood. It was a devastating local flood. And to anyone who may had written this, they may had seen it as the whole world, because it was more or less their whole world that was flooded.
Okay.
Or the other thought is that they took 2 of every race as well, including the Kenites.
So they took all the animals.
All the animals
and 2 of every race.
Every race.
And even though Cain and Seth were born of the same parents, their lineages somehow ended up being different races?
Yes, because Cain and Abel are not of the same father. The father of Cain is the serpent, which is revealed in Revelations to be Satan. So Cain is literally the son of Satan.
So Eve had sex with Satan, or is that what we're saying?
Yes, this is called.
That is the first I've heard this ever.
No, I told you about this before.
Did you really? I must have pushed it out of my mind.
I mentioned it like after this, like after ours, but yeah, it was. This is the serpent seed belief. So, because in Revelation, I can't remember exactly where. It's a few chapters. I want to say chapter 7, but I could be wrong. It is revealed as Revelations that Satan, the old dragon, or the serpent, they give him multiple names. So one, we know that's him. When they talk about when someone knows their wife in the Bible,
that means they did some fornicating.
Like that. Yeah, and it is spoken like that when Eve comes across the snake. And also, there's no mention of fruit, of like actual like an apple. It's not in Genesis at all.
So was the original sin Eve having sex with the serpent?
Yes, and also Adam.
And also Adam?
Also Adam. Yeah. And yeah, this is kind of like the grown-up version.
So original sin wasn't eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Yes.
It was having sex with both of them, getting it on with Satan.
Yes, more or less, yeah. Yes, because Jesus is the tree of life, and the knowledge of and the tree that is like the knowledge of good and evil, and the serpent is a metaphor for Satan.
Jesus was okay. So it's all metaphorical.
Yeah.
So we went all the way from the end of time to the beginning of time, but I'm not going to stop because this is interesting to me. So how did that, like, were Adam and Eve really the first people? Like, were they uniquely created?
That's a very good question. No, we believe in a 6-day creation. And I will pull this one up because I want to quote it correctly.
I didn't get enough alcohol for this.
No.
At all.
And this is a common misconception of the beginning. And I can go back earlier than like chapter 2. There's a lot of misconceptions. But
what Bible are you reading from to me right now?
This one is the Skeptics Annotated. It just made me take a drink. But my church specifically reads from the King James Version, and it goes along with the Strong's Concordance. Every single word, even the and, are documented, cross-referenced to with the Strong's Concordance, and like what the exact translation of each and every word was. So you can look up how many times a word was used and everything, and what the specific translation for light, like if there's like 2 different ones for it, or like a different word was used, or void, or anything, it will reference exactly how it's used and how it's used in other parts of the Bible. So you can cross-reference and make sure it was used in the same way.
Okay.
So, second day, 6. Okay, I can't find it now because I can't read and talk at the same time. So I'll just say that on the 6th day, you may recognize as saying God saying, to other beings, let's make man in the image of ourselves, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that is with the other angels. So we are made off of our spirits, more or less, right? So, and on the sixth day, that's when man was created, with like the beasts of the field.
Okay.
And that's most of the other races were made on that day.
Okay.
Even other
Adam
even
and Eve
other,
weren't the only people created on the sixth day.
No, and that's apparent as you go through Genesis. They meet with other peoples, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the races were actually made on the fifth day, and we think it was the Chinese people, because they were made with like the water animals. And I'm not going to go too far into this because I just feel bad.
Mac.
Yeah. So,
So your religion has this little sprinkling of racism. That's neat.
Yeah. But at the same time, my pastor really pushes for God made all of this and he saw it was good. He's like, it's like, so don't call me a racist. He made them exactly for what he made them for, and they are beautiful and they are perfect in their own way. And each race is,
goodness.
Yeah.
In their own way.
Yeah, in their own way. And like,
I'm not racist because I say that they're good in their own way.
So and he made like white people on the sixth day as well, but he made Adam specifically, Adam or whatever, how it's said, translated, because he made them on the eighth day specifically to till the ground and to bring the Christ line. That was Adam's purpose. And he was totally white. It was
definitely white, even though he was at least however many thousands of years. How many thousands of years ago do you think Adam and Eve were, uniquely, and the rest of the humans on Earth were uniquely created? How long ago was that?
Good questions. You're asking some good questions.
I'm deviating from the list. I went rogue.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You have to with me. Like, I couldn't use my own list. There's a guideline. Okay, so for Adam and Eve, you can literally count back generations to like king's lines, and then through the Bible, like how they connect. Yeah, because royal lines usually come from some kind of like one of the 12 tribes of Israel, which my mom has traced back all the way to Adam and Eve at least 2 times.
Oh wow!
She's super duper into genealogy.
That is
she
dedication.
Has traced it back to like royal lines and then connected it to the names in the Bible.
Oh my! Okay.
So
fascinating,
isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is.
The other little nugget of knowledge you need to know is, all right, well, there's 2 things, and I'll let you push me on either one or when, if you want.
I plan to. I need to know how old the human race is. It's very important to me.
Well, well, the human race is at least thousands of years old.
Thousands.
But the Earth is at least millions or billions of years old.
Okay. So each day was millions of years in the creation narrative.
Specifically 1,000, because in 2 Peter, it does state that 1,000 years with God is a day on Earth.
Okay. So to God, a day is like yeah.
So these other cultures had literally 1,000 or 2,000 years before Adam and Eve. Like there were people on Earth before them, and then he made them in the garden. But these other cultures had cultures before, like they had their own, more or less Adam and Eve's, and they started life before God.
But how is the Earth millions of years old if each day is only 1,000 years?
Okay. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That is verse 1 of chapter 1 in Genesis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it says the earth was void and without form.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more to that verse, but that doesn't matter. That's the part we need to focus on. Is
okay.
I'm not going to grab that. The word void is tuhu in Hebrew, which is literally just void. The earth is void and without form. But in Isaiah chapter 45, it says that God created the earth not in void, not in tuhu, same word in Hebrew, but he made it to be inhabited. So that's kind of a context clue. Same word in two different parts of the Bible, tuhu, in Isaiah and Genesis verse 2. Also in verse 2, the word haya is was, but that's not really what was. Haya is not a good translation.
Okay.
Or was isn't a good translation for haya. It's to become. So verse 2 should more accurately read, the earth became void and without form. So this is in reference to the first earth age, because there are 3 earth ages, and it's mentioned a couple times in the Bible. So the first earth age has to do with the fall of Satan. So there were millions of years potentially that we all lived in peace and harmony with the Lord our God, Yahweh. And then Satan, his most beautiful angel, Lucifer, the morning star, kind of just got up his own butt a little much, and he was just like, well, why don't people like me so much, and why is he so great? And a third of the angels agreed, and they followed Satan. So that was like the fall. There's this big fallout or a war.
Where is that in the Bible?
That Ezekiel chapter 28, and it's a metaphor more or less in there of King Tyre, and it speaks of like, or references the fall of Satan, and they're talking about King Tyre. I forget how to connect the whole thing. It's been a while, but yeah, that's like the fall of Satan, and it really is like an interesting and sad parable if you read like Ezekiel 28. Just like, it's just the story of someone who was so great they like betrayed their creator. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the Bible. I think it's still like interesting. But
what about when it says thus ended the first day or whatever, and thus ended the second day, like those parts of the Bible when it said the earth was formless and void and thus ended the second day? Does that mean the second day, that particular day, wasn't 1,000 years?
When he was
or they didn't mean day?
Yeah, it didn't necessarily mean specifically day, because again in 2 Peter it says that a day on earth is 1,000 years with
except for if you say Haya, in which case a day on earth is a couple million years.
It could, yeah.
It's like a clause that gets you out of a day being 1,000 years.
There's an undetermined amount of time between verse 1 and verse 2 of Genesis, because
but they say day,
but it doesn't say when. Well, it doesn't say when God created the heavens and the earth.
So you don't really believe in a 6-day creation, then? You believe in a couple billion years and then a couple thousand.
Yes.
So several billion years, day one, and then every day after day one is 1,000 years.
1,000 years. But we
and
talk
day
about it
5, a bunch of people were put on the earth, except for Adam and Eve, and they had 1,000 years to propagate all over the earth. And then God created Adam and Eve because he needed them to get to Jesus, because he needed some white people, I guess.
Yes. Yes, you understand.
But then the 2 specific people that he created specifically so that he could get to his human instantiation on earth immediately had sex with Satan.
Yes, that was Satan's.
I just want to make sure I'm following this.
Really
so
good
he waited billions of years, then 4,000 years. And then there were humans just kicking around for 1,000 years. And then he was like, okay, it's time to create the line that will bring forth Jesus. And the first thing they do is have sex with Satan.
Because the earth was ready. Yes, well,
the earth was ready. Nobody's ready.
Like, they more or less had a threesome. So like they just did it all together. So like they had like Abel and Cain, and it was like they were fraternal twins.
So okay, wait. So
I can't just sprinkle that in and leave it alone.
So they had a threesome. This isn't real. They had a threesome, and she ovulated 2 eggs. Both of them were fertilized by a sperm. And how would you even know which one was Satan's sperm and which one was Adam's sperm? I guess God would know because he's God, right?
Yes.
Why would God let that happen? What if it was the Satan baby that ended up leading to Jesus? How do you like? Maybe Cain was Adam's baby.
And you can tell by his actions, because Cain was the first murderer.
So he couldn't be God's kid? Why? But God specifically created Adam and Eve, and the first thing they did was have sex with Satan. So why would Adam's kid be any different? Why would he have better impulse control, Mac? I don't understand.
I always told you mine was a doozy. I always told you mine was.
So, you're apologetic for that? Non-denominational Mac?
There's so much there to unpack. What's the specific question again?
I don't know. I think that there was a lot in there. Just pick one.
Cain was the first murderer. He's obviously like the spawn of Satan. And we go on from there.
Had sex with Satan.
Like, Satan can like be anything he wants. He probably wasn't still a snake at the time. He probably like turned into like some hot male model, and then some hot male or a hot like female model like for Adam. We don't know.
Whoa! So they had a shape-shifting threesome?
Maybe.
Why? Because Adam couldn't do any gay stuff? Because then I don't know how to process all of this information. Okay.
That's what I've been told since I was 6.
Since you were 6? That's a story that they tell children?
Yeah, because you don't fuck with God's word, right? God's word
is a story you tell children. You tell children about Satan threesome. Oh dear God. I feel like 6 is a bit young for that, but I'm kind of a prude.
Are you too good for God's word, Shannon?
Yes. If that's what it is, then yes. Then yes, I
drink. I'm out.
I'm all. Maybe we should. I kind of have to pee too. Are we allowed to take a break, Jen? Just to fuck with Nacha? Would have been burned into my brain, or I would have just been like, I just need to put. This needs to go.
I plan on going through the whole Bible with my because I didn't actually make it all the way through, in my studies, but I've restarted a couple weeks ago. I had to prep for this a little bit, and I did find on YouTube the videos that I have on VHS from the 90s. Like I remember like the inflection in his voice. I'm like, these are the exact recordings.
You should totally do response videos to them.
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about going through like the whole thing and then maybe breaking down each book from my religion. It's a trip. So right now I'm having Sunday services while I'm at work, Shannon. I have earbuds in and I'm just listening for about an hour and a half each.
That must Sunday. Be a trip, thinking differently now, listening to that like while you're thinking completely differently. It must be like just a complete trip.
It is.
You need to be Theist Mac again in a sec, though. You need to get your Theist Mac hat on. We need to get back to Satan threesomes. It's important to me that I flesh this out.
So much.
I need to know the truth of the word so I can be saved.
Don't be distracted by the threesome. There's so much more to pick at.
I try not to be, but I can almost never help it.
There are spaceships, so
no, there's not.
The spaceships. Yeah. I'm sorry.
An apple?
Oh. No. There's no apple or orange or any specific fruit mentioned in the book of Genesis. The fruit is the fruit of Satan's loins, literally.
But he's okay. I need to start asking Theist Mac questions because I have questions. I have more questions. You let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm always ready.
Oh, is it okay? All right.
Okay, we're on. Okay.
All right, I'm ready. Let's party. So I have questions. I have questions, and here's one of them. One of the questions I have is: you said that Jesus was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, metaphorically.
No, life. He's the tree of life.
Tree's the tree of life.
Yes.
So
Satan is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Satan is the tree of the knowledge of the good and evil. So when they say don't eat of that tree, that means
of the fruit of his loins.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
That man will show you the way.
Drink. There's no way Theist Mac would have done that. Drink. Okay. So, all right. I feel we've covered Adam and Eve enough. Let's go. Let's move past. Let's move past. I think we figured out the age of the earth. Humans are around 10,000-ish years old. Adam and Eve are maybe less than that somewhere.
Yeah.
And the flood was probably a local flood, but maybe it wasn't. And they also brought other people on, but maybe they didn't.
Right.
Okay.
Either way,
we just can't know.
Perfect. Right.
Sorry. By the way, God's word is perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Either way.
And okay. And Cain's line survived. We'll get to the apocalypse eventually.
Because God promised that his line would survive after he more or less whined in that first couple chapters of like
after killing Abel.
Yeah, and after once people find out, you've cast me out, like everyone's gonna want to kill me. It's like, well, if anyone tries to kill you, like my revenge on them will be sevenfold. So he promised that his line would survive. So he made sure that they've made it through all this time, and and all of them have a brown thumb, which means they can't grow anything, which is more or less where hunters came from. And also, they have a crooked nose. So there's two ways that you can identify.
They have wait. They physically have a crooked nose.
Yes.
But where does this has a sprinkling of anti-Semitism to me. Like it's yeah.
You're right. Because Jesus mentioned something about, he says something about the Jews, but not actually the Jews, like people who pretend to be Jews and who aren't real Jews.
And those are Canaanites. And
Are
those the people that people in your religion would consider to be, who call themselves like Hasidic or Jewish people today?
Maybe. I can't clarify on that, but he does point out a specific set of Jewish people that he is talking to in the Bible, and he calls them out because he would know, because he is the Son of God, that they are not like sons of Seth. They are sons of Cain, the murderer, and something along that line. I think he actually does connect them to Satan, which backs up the serpent seed.
Oh my dear sweet Lord. Okay, your religion is a trip. Okay, so
Deep
all right. So they survived. Cain's lineage survived a potentially local flood, or somehow they got on the boat if it wasn't local, and then kept on propagating. So Moses, like, what do you think about Moses? Like, do you think that really happened? Like slavery and
of course
seas parting? That absolutely was a real historical person?
Yeah. And like there's still like, chariots or whatever in the Dead Sea.
Oh, okay.
Whatever one it is.
Okay. Because so that's physical evidence, the fact that you can find some chariots maybe in the
of course.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. I'm gonna take a minute to take some of this in. What is your least favorite Bible passage or story?
Oh, that's ever been asked that before. I don't care for the genealogy. Like, I know it's important, but I can't stand to try to read through it or even listen to it. My brain just can't focus on it. So like any chapters that are just full of like the genealogy, I'm not really interested in. And the other one is Psalms. I've never read all the way through Psalms because I don't really care for them. It's like, it's not a lot of historical stuff. It's just like a bunch of feel good stuff, which is fine. I'd like people like it, but I don't. It doesn't really click with me. I'm more interested in I'm more interested in the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end.
All right. So. Wow. Okay. Did you ever convert, or have you converted anybody to your religion?
No.
Would you be interested in converting anybody to your religion?
Of course. Yeah, I don't bring it up and I don't push it on anyone. Usually when I talk about it, I usually do talk about the end times because it's really point out that the Antichrist comes first, and that's the most important thing that people need to know. Because when you follow Lucifer instead of Jesus Christ, like it says towards the end of Revelations that like people will pray for mountains to fall on their heads because they feel so goddamn bad about it. Like they don't want that. Like they want to die because they followed the wrong God. And it is right there in the Bible. So that's one of the most important things that like we push. Like,
how can you tell if you're following the Antichrist?
He comes first. He comes first.
But what does that mean? How can you tell if you're following him?
So think of what people think like the rapture is going to be. They think like Jesus is going to come from the sky and everyone's going to see him. Somehow everyone's going to see him. All around the world, everyone.
all at the same time.
Which is interesting because even in the 90s, like my parents told me, they're like, we are going to have technology to see everywhere in the world, like we do now. We can stream anywhere. Like, this is Nacho's channel. He's in Australia. You're in Nova Scotia. I'm in Ohio, and we can all connect at the same time. Like, I've been waiting to see this technology since I was a small boy. And also there'd be a push for a one world order. And then at the last like moments of any kind of like peace treaty, we think China and Russia would back out. And before there was a real huge big war, after this break of peace, that's when the Antichrist will show his face, and he will just come like the Son of God. He's the Antichrist. He's the morning star. He's the most beautiful angel that God ever created.
Oh, so people will like, he's not going to come and like look evil and gross. He's going to come and look amazing, and people are going to think he's Jesus and start worshiping him.
I'm here to rapture you out, and you need to get all of your friends and family to come along. And anyone, even the elect, who know better, they will be tempted to follow their brother, their sister, their best friends to this person that they know is the devil. And it's already going to be hard times. People are still going to have to go to work. That's one reason why, like, Jesus isn't here, because things are still kind of normal, but we are all getting ready for rapture, and we have to get ready to go to heaven before what people think is like rapture is going to happen. He's here to round them all up, and it's just a big old fake test is basically what it is. So then when people think they're going to be raptured up, there comes real Jesus, and everyone's like, oh fuck, that's who's that guy?
Shit, we thought the other guy was Jesus that came down from the sky. So that's why the most important message in your ministry is that Satan comes first, because when somebody descends from the sky, you need to know that the first one you see, that's not him. You just wait. Don't be fooled.
People are foolish, and like, we shouldn't go with traditions of man. Like, everyone believes like this rapture is going to happen, and that like we're going to see someone evil, and when someone good finally comes to see us, when it's so plainly written in God's word that the Antichrist comes first, they will be deceived. They will be deceived.
So the Antichrist is coming down to trick us into thinking he's good, so that we'll go with him. So that we'll be.
What better way to take advantage of God's children than pretend he's Jesus?
So godly people who believed in Jesus their whole entire life and followed the Bible, just because they didn't pick up on that nuanced piece at the end of the Bible, are going to go to hell. No, but then what does it matter? Who cares?
They'll definitely be deceived, and they'll like wish that they were dead, because they are biblically illiterate.
So they're just gonna wish they were dead because they're sad about how stupid they are, or like why?
Also, Satan may really make a good name for himself while he's here, and maybe more people will want to go into that abyss that is mentioned in Revelation. So like, if he convinces enough people that he's wonderful and that he should be worshipped more than God, then they will go to jail. There's this judgment day after 1,000-year period, because a day with
but isn't he pretending that he's Jesus?
Yeah, he is, but then like he'll put on a good show, and maybe people will love him, right? And
because they think he's Jesus.
Yeah, because they think he's Jesus. And maybe after Jesus comes back, people are going to be like, hey, well, this guy was better, maybe I want to stay with him. And then all of those people will go to hell. Like everyone has a choice. Why would
somebody come down and pretend that he's Jesus?
Oh, because Satan doesn't think that he's a bad guy. He just thinks
but why would God let him come down and pretend that he's Jesus?
That's the ultimate question.
That's a good question, right?
Why would God let some evil maniac roam around the earth,
pretending that he's Jesus and punishing people who don't know nuanced, finite details about the very end of the Bible where it says that Satan comes first?
Well, it's not just finite like details, Shannon. Like it's there plainly. Like you are put on this earth with like one big book to read. Like you're through your whole life. Like you should be able to get through it and just like read it and know what it means, because it's like
and memorize every single intricacy of it. It's a huge book. There's no way a reasonable person could memorize every single people spend their lives studying it and still find things in it that they hadn't realized before. Nobody could memorize it cover to cover.
No, but that's why we have teachers, right? We have pastors, we have priests, and they're supposed to teach God's word the right way, like the literate way. And anyone that is like a teacher of God's word that leads people the wrong way, they are the first on like the chopping block to like their blood is on their hands, basically. Like,
but what if they had good intentions and they just interpreted it differently?
Then they should have read the Bible more. Like they should, like that's their job.
But what if they read the Bible? What if they read the Bible every single day and they just interpret it differently?
If they're interpreting it wrong, they're probably not reading it enough.
Probably not reading it enough.
They're not translating it.
They didn't read it good. Okay, all right, fair enough.
Hard line.
Wow. So you guys read it the rightest, and other people who don't read it as right as you, that's on them because they didn't read it enough or write enough.
There's in a nutshell, yes. But I want to put emphasis on those who teach it the wrong way. They're the ones who really have that wrong on their hands, because like we do have to live by like the law of the land, and like in this capitalism that we have, so people have to go to work, they have to provide for their families. So who they depend on to go to church with, and like who their pastor is, like that, like I said, they're like their blood is on their hands. Like if they lead them the wrong way, they're the ones who have to answer for it. And then there's supposed to be this 1,000-year period where everyone's like re-educated in the word of the Lord before the actual judgment day.
Wait, so if the devil tricks you and you believe he's Jesus, then you just have to you just read more for 1,000 years and then you should be fine?
More or less. Like, the elect are supposed to be teachers in that time. So like they teach the truth in that time. So like everyone kind of gets a second chance.
Like, do the people that already died have that opportunity to educate themselves for 1,000 years?
Absolutely. Like everyone gets, basically everyone in that 1,000-year period gets a second chance, which so kind of knocks out the whole point of this life in Earth.
So really the only point of being a member of your sect is to just get a speed pass? It's just like the equivalent of like being able to jump the line?
I wish someone had asked me that question. So, where have you been all my life? Even now, I haven't thought of like it that way. That was a good question. I don't want to finish my drink yet. I don't want to have to get up again.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's just a speed pass, basically. So if I can just like sum up this whole little thing, like with the Earth ages and stuff, real quick. Do you mind?
Yeah.
So, after that Judgment Day, everyone who decides to go with Satan, after that, all tears will be like. There's something about tears. Will all be like wiped away or like erased or whatever. And that's in reference to people's memories. So if you don't make it, if you choose to be with Satan, or you just aren't good enough, more or less, but mostly if you choose to not be good enough to be in God's presence in heaven, then you go into the abyss. And when you are in the abyss, you are terminated. You are erased from existence and have ever existence. So the memory of you is gone. There will be no tears about this earth age in heaven. God will erase every memory of you if you choose not. So it's not a burning hell like people think. There's no burning hell mentioned in the Bible.
You just stop existing?
You just stop existing, and
just annihilationist.
Yeah. So when my friend Anna told me she was an atheist, I was so scared that I wouldn't remember her in the third earth age when God brings back heaven to earth, because heaven is where God is. So in the first earth age, we were all together with God in heaven and earth. It was on earth. Heaven was earth, basically. And then he separated the two when he made it without form, void. And we have this earth age.
I almost forgot about that.
That's for the speed pass.
Yeah.
And then when he comes back, like that third of whomever like defied him, I'm guessing are the ones who would choose to go with Satan in the first place, and maybe some others like go into the abyss with him. After that, we're back to this eternal paradise of heaven on earth. Like God, Jesus will bring back, like when he comes and like destroy the earth as it is and bring back heaven as it was, more or less. And then we live happily ever after with no tears of who we've lost. That's way more devastating than what like the burning hell was like to anyone, like eternal torture. It was just like the thought of being or not remembering someone.
That is intense, because if you have a family member that deconverts, but you're not worried about them being tortured for eternity, you will exist for eternity without ever remembering they existed.
Ever.
So when
as you said, it's like a divine North Korea. It's so authoritarian. And
so when you
struck.
How you have kids, I have kids.
Yeah.
Like, so if I believed what you believed and my son decided that he even believed in a different, religion, or became an atheist, what kind? I can't, I would rather be annihilated.
Right?
I'd rather be annihilated. I'd pick annihilation.
So I don't want to break character, but I do need to be honest and say, like, what I felt from my friend Anna when she told me she was an atheist, like, helps me understand how I think my dad looks at me now. Like, he's so sorely disappointed, but he better love me now, because, like, there's not going to be a memory of me later.
Right. So he's making the best of it.
Yeah, but he's so disappointed. I can only imagine it's like that, and it's really devastating when you have to think of someone like that being dead in that way.
God damn it! I'm sorry. This was supposed to be somewhat funny, and we were supposed to have a drink, but yeah, that sucks.
That's why I saved mine so long.
That really sucks.
Another reason why I made it a drinking game.
Yeah, because if you go to heaven, what is heaven if somebody has to contort your mind so that you don't even recognize what you might even see as the best components of your life anymore in order to inhabit it?
You wouldn't know the difference.
But then you're not you anymore. So it's not even you there. You're not saving yourself. You're saving a new version of you that doesn't consist of anything that makes you anymore.
Right, and I'm sure there's a good, not good, a poor argument for like what makes you you to fit in there for my religion.
Mm-hmm.
But
something soul, something essence,
yeah.
something soul, essence.
Soul.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of those.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of those. Wow. Okay. So I feel like that actually is probably a good stopping point, because I don't even feel like making more amusing commentary, because that was important to get to. I think that is something that people that are listening, as funny as the, like, you know, snake sex is. Snake sex is fun. This
the threesome in the garden.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing this, because it like leads towards the gravity of the psychological heaviness that comes with a lot of these belief systems that are wrapped up and presented as a greater good, and the damage they can have on relationships too. I think, unless theist Mac or even atheist Mac thinks otherwise, like that's a lot of psychological heaviness to deal with in and out.
Yeah, no, I agree, because if I may, I don't know if many people that I've interviewed remember any talks afterwards, but like when I'm asked about my deconversion, it's just like, well, I didn't learn new things in the Bible, like I think you did. Like I was like, oh, well, this was horrific. Well, I already knew those horrific things. Like as a small child, that's just, are you too good for God's word?
Yeah.
And when I grew up, I realized I was. So that's why my favorite topic, Shannon, is morality. Is because I knew all of this as a small child up until I was 28. And then I realized that it's not more like I have a higher morality than God, because I know all of this. I didn't have to read any new parts of the Bible to be horrified. It just clicked one day that this is wrong. Everything I already know is wrong. There's nothing new under the sun, as my pastor would say. It's just what I knew was bad. So like Matt Dillahunty, like if God's not a humanist, fuck him. Right?
Well,
that really rings so true with me, because just that ending part is enough to be like, that's horrific. What a zombie eternity. That doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah, and I think that those are the hoops that you have to jump through mentally to reconcile in order to, I feel like your religion, to me, it sounds like, goes through a lot of reconciliation hoops in order to prevent God from being a monster. And it turns out the only way to prevent him from being a monster is to erase yourself, if you believe in him.
More or less. So this was fun.
Was it? Okay. I'm bad at fun.
No, you're not.
I ruined fun. I'm the destroyer of fun.
I'm so glad that like I got to talk to you and I'm really sad that like Nacho wasn't here, because he's also like such a close friend, and I'm glad he's gonna like get to check this out. But like this was really fun for me to go through this with you.
It was really fun for me. I feel privileged, and thank you for wanting me to do it. Hopefully I didn't make you too like uncomfortable and weird. I have that.
No, I really felt like I was in it. Like,
good.
Like all those pushbacks that I tried to like give, even when they were like a little sarcastic, I feel like were honest pushbacks.
Like those were arguments that you would have previously made.
More or less, yeah. And
this is a good introspective experiment.
What? No, perfect. Good. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's why I picked Annihilation. Yeah. If somebody said you could live for eternity and be happy but never remember your son, or you can just stop existing, I'd say, well, then end me, because I'm not me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Where's the law? But as a Christian, then that is okay. Well, then I'm going to the abyss too, and that's so. Then you have to not just think of, okay, well, I'm going there with my son. Well, then my parents have to deal with never remembering me. Like it goes through everyone that ever remember, like the entire memory, every person that you affect throughout your life who cared about you in any way, like you are taking that from them.
How do you retain who is you and lose all of those interactions?
That's a good question. I guess it kind of that choice helps determine who you are.
That's crazy. So you don't have that 1,000 years to like, would you have 1,000 years to think about it and then maybe you could be with them, or just you're destined for annihilation?
Yeah, I don't know. From what I know, that 1,000-year period, like before Judgment Day, where everyone lines up and each one chooses to go to the abyss or stay here, they the whole 1,000 years is supposed to be like a re-education camp, more or less.
Right.
And it's just so weird because, like, I know like time and spaces are like relative, but also like this time thing. One, the time thing just doesn't make sense. Two, it's just so authoritarianist, and it takes out that free will that the Bible promises, anyways, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't believe in free will, like to a certain extent, but yeah, it nullifies it. Like that ending nullifies a lot, but also the burning hell ending nullifies a lot that's in the Bible anyways, like the benevolence, right?
Yeah.
So much it doesn't make sense. So like if I had to believe in a Christianity, and I've realized this as I've gotten back into it recently, I would still pick mine, because like they try so hard to make a sense of it. Like no other one makes more sense to me.
Yeah, it tried to reconcile science and deep time and the existence of different races, and it allowed for maybe a local flood and God's not just going to punish people and put them in hell. He's going to give you 1,000 years, just figure it out. And then if you don't go there, well, if we don't want you to be in pain, not remembering your children and your parents and everybody that's ever been important to you. So we'll just pluck that part of your mind, and we'll just pluck that out so that you can just be happy because you never knew they existed.
Yeah, never knew. Won't even hurt.
Wow.
Yeah, it's something else. There's so much more. There's so much more.
We skipped over the whole middle of the Bible and all of Jesus. Just the beginning and the end.
So now everyone can kind of see, if you go back and watch the old ones, you can kind of see where my questions spawned from.
Yeah.
Everything covered. Except the spaceship. Another day.
What? I didn't even get to the spaceship.
That's okay. Another day.
See, I fly off the rails. I don't know why people ask me to do anything, because I go so rogue.
You picked on every point I hoped you would, and that was good. Like I had answers, I feel like, for each thing, which is scary and dangerous.
Well, it seemed to me that the way you were presenting your religion, it was like the apocalypse is like the most important part. Like that's the thing that everybody needs to know. Like the rest of it leads up to that, but that's what you need to know.
Because that abyss, because hell, right?
Yeah.
It's everyone's ultimate. It's just I have a different version. So
it's crazy, man.
Anyways.
My religion was so innocuous.
You were biblically illiterate.
I was, apparently. So it would seem. All right.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and give us a closeout real quick?
Oh yes, I'm supposed to say I'm Shannon Mac. Where are you from? Tell everybody, where they can find you or whatever. At least I think I am. I didn't scroll down. I completely abandoned this thing. All right, so thank guest and plug both channels and end. I did it. All right, well, thank you, Mac. I really appreciate you having this conversation with me, and I hope you got as much out of it as I did, and as much as the audience likely will. And people, like I said, can check you out at the Grey Skeptic Mac channel, and also on the Leah podcast, which is on Friday nights. You said 10:30 Eastern, right? 10:30 Eastern. And I'm Shannon Q. Hi, guys. I don't even know if I introduced myself. I have a channel. It's called Shannon Q because I'm super, super creative. And I do stuff there. You can go check it out if you want to. It's all right. It's worth it, I guess, or whatever. So thank you. And we appreciate you tuning in to Atheist Flashbacks and elevate the discourse. I'm putting my tag in this channel because I do what I want.
The answers are in the gray area.
Our tags are in.
Have you ever imagined sleeping with your own upside-down Nacho? Do you wish you could grab a long-haired Australian and drink alcohol from their body? Maybe you're more interested in sitting on your imaginary underworld apostate's face, or just stomp into the curb for writing such horrendous lines. Nachos go great with beer. Now you can and more with these fantastic overpriced items from the great range on sale in Nacho's Underworld Market. Your nachos are always best with beer. Pick up your very own upside-down pillow, throw an apostate on your stretch pants, or slap on some yowie socks and just walk all over me. Your nachos always go best with beer. So grab Australian mug, wrap your lips around it, and suck dry those glorious liquids. Everything in stock is limited because I get bored and change it up all the time, so get yours now. As always, ensure to thoroughly beer your nacho. Go to teesprings.com/store/nachos Underworld Market to grab your very own nacho now.